Welcome to the Inspired Path with Lisa Heidle, where we explore topics that spark curiosity and creativity, explore fresh perspectives, and challenge the status quo. In this episode of the Inspired Path, I had the absolute pleasure of speaking with Cheryl Wheeler. Cheryl is such an interesting woman. For her day job, she is a sustainability strategist and educator. And she's also what we call a working writer. Her most recent release is called 108 Dreams. I was so excited to speak with Cheryl because she's such a powerful example of what can be done when we follow our creative nudges. And in this conversation that Cheryl and I have, we talk about how we can mine our subconscious for creative ideas and inspiration, the difference between creativity and commerce. It's a big difference. Very big difference, people. Using structure to develop discipline, and once again, the power of following the muse in our lives. I hope you enjoy listening to the episode as much as I did having the conversation with Cheryl. So are you ready? Let's go meet Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. I'm so excited to have you with me here today. We're going to be talking about using our dreams to access and unlock our creativity. And we're also going to be talking about how we can use structure to build our discipline in our creative and writing projects. And so often we think we have to be disciplined, right, to create the structure. We're going to be talking about how we can use structure to help us build that discipline. So we're going to be discussing that today. Cheryl, let's jump right in. I want to share your book, 108 Dreams, which I love. And it's the reason I wanted to talk with you. Well, one of many. You also have other books out, but I really enjoyed this. And can you tell our listeners a little bit about what is 108 Dreams?
So 108 Dreams is a compilation of dreams that I had. And I made sure that I wrote them in the second person so that they would have a universal feel to them, that anybody could be having these dreams. It's not just about me. There's no interpretation. It's just a vignette. It's just a picture. And I did it because I wanted to write another book, but I didn't want to write a cookbook. I wanted to write something that was creative and flowing. And I also had realized that I had recently not been remembering any of my dreams. And so it was a great excuse to remember my dreams.
I actually look at my dream state as I have my waking life and then I have my dream life. And to me, they're equally important as a creative. And I notice when I'm not writing, my dreams get wiggy. So many other creatives, scientists, and writers have actually spoken about and shared that, some of their most famous works came from a dream. Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein from a nightmare. Paul McCartney heard the melody for Yesterday in a dream. Einstein talked about the importance of his dream state. You said you weren't remembering your dreams. And that wasn't common?
When I was younger, I remembered them all the time, and I found them really fascinating, and I would write them down and have a journal. And then I think I started to sleep better, actually. There was point in my life where I started to sleep better, and it was really wonderful because I wasn't waking up so much, but then I was missing out on the dreams when I was sleeping so soundly. And yeah, I think I was just sort of missing the information that I was getting from even just the entertainment that I was getting from my dreams. And just like you were saying, with the scientists and all kinds of different creative people, that is absolutely how my brain works a lot. Recently, I'm still working on more of the creative writing, but recently a lot of my dreams have been, I'm working on a spreadsheet. I'm trying to solve some complex mathematical problem. And so it's definitely a place where your brain is working hard at night to help you figure out what to do next.
Like you said, you weren't remembering your dreams. And a lot of people say that. They're like, I know I dream, but I have no memory of them when they wake up. Or I remembered I dreamed something, but
Right.
it's like wispy, right? It just kind of disappears as soon as you open your eyes. So how did you build the discipline to document your dreams? And then did you start remembering them better when you were documenting them?
Yeah, I would say, well, my son some years ago, he was very interested in lucid dreaming, and so he was telling me all about it, and I was never successful at it, but he has had some success with it. And he said, Mom, it's just all about setting intention when you go and get into your bed and like you think, okay, I'm going to remember this. And so what I did was I said, okay, I'm going to remember my dreams, and I put a recorder next to the bed and said, when I went to sleep, I will record any dreams that I have. And so they started to come, and what I had to do was figure out a way to kind of stay in a little bit in the dream state and hold the recorder and still be able to use it and just record just a few sentences to kind of like catch the vibe of the dream. And then that would be enough for me to remember like all the details when I actually got up in the morning.
When I read through it, I was kind of like, oh, that's a little wild,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And knowing that they're your actual dreams, I was like, oh my, like, but we all have those, right? So did it surprise you what you were seeing in your dream state?
And not necessarily. I mean, some of the dreams were things that I just dreamed all over and over and over again. I think there's one called Classic, and it's just about teeth falling out. And many people have the dream of the teeth falling out. And I was like, oh, I'm so tired of this. So that's why I decided to call it Classic. I would say some of the ones I had that were more disturbing, some of my friends said, well, you shouldn't include those. But I had recently read The Book of Delights by Ross Gay. And in one of his delights that he describes, it's a great book. One of the delights that he described was waking up from one of the worst nightmares that he had ever had. And his delight was that it wasn't true.
Mhm.
And so I thought, okay, there need to be more people saying this is actually what I dream about, and this is this is bad, but it's also saying that this is how the mind is, and aren't you glad that this isn't actually happening?
So in 108 dreams, they're all shorter, and which is flash fiction. And some of them are one or two lines, which is also very great. Now, did you know that you were writing flash fiction when you wrote 108 dreams?
I had no idea.
Okay. So that structure just came to you until you and I started talking. I was like, oh, this is flash, right? Okay. And one, I love that because you just followed your muse. You were just compelled to do it and you just followed that down the path. And I think so often, especially now with online creators, we've really gotten confused with creativity and commerce. We don't start something unless we know it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
That is not creativity. That's commerce, right? So let's talk a little bit about that, about how you follow your creative nudges.
I actually think about that a lot because I've had, friends and family over time saying, "Oh, you could get rich writing." And it ruins it. It really ruins it for me. And I kind of did have a little bit of hope that the 108 Dreams would be something that people would pay attention to because I really enjoyed it. A number of my friends were just absolutely loved it. And yeah, it just, in the end, I had to say, this is just going to be my creative project. And I just keep going because I like it. And there's going to be the next book is going to be 216 dreams. And then the next book is going to be 432 dreams because like they're going to come. I might as well write them down. It's a great activity. It's a great structure. It's a great way to kind of reflect on what's happening in my life and in my mind. And with 216 dreams, I am pairing those with AI generated art. It fits with the feeling of the dream. And so I'm really enjoying that creative process of recapturing the image that I saw, writing down what I saw, ensuring that it's universal, and hey, if that becomes a commercial success, great, super happy, but I'm not writing to a formula.
There's some positive pros and cons to all technology. And I think that's one of the pros is you can get very creative with it.
Yeah, I think with social media in general, never had a knack for marketing, but I've also found it as a place where I share rather than influence.
And with 108 dreams, and like you said, you're going to have 216 dreams, right? Is the next one. And so you've created a structure around your writing project, which is a number. I have an amazing writer friend named Clayton Ramsey, who is, he did 52 short stories in a year just to really build that muscle and that discipline to, have the structure of 52. And like you did 108 or 216 is your next one. And how did that help you show up for the project consistently?
Yeah, just the fact that I had a target was really the key. And I would report to my friends, okay, I'm at 32. Okay, I'm at 53. All right, I'm at 70. And so it's kind of like, in a way, I was trying to keep myself accountable to getting to the target number. They helped me with feedback and things like that as well. So by having other people engaged in the project, I kept myself on top of it. And then also, the way I have to organize my writing is typically online. And so I was using Google Drive, and I would just have one separate document with a number on it for every single one. And that helped me to say, okay, I know exactly where I'm going. I'm not just filling out a paper notebook. I'm the next one that comes, it's going to go in this slot in the Google Drive. And I think that um, my friends being able to look in the Google Drive and then talking to my friends about doing it were the things that really kept it moving forward.
Well, that's interesting. So you actually had people interacting with the writing project in as it was evolving.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow, I don't know if I could do that. Yeah, as a writer. Yeah, to me, I draft and draft and draft. And so I'm constantly reworking something. And so I love that that's courageous, but I love that you're sharing that because the way I do something is not the right way, it's just my way. And so I think we get these, we have a lot of writing and creative advice that's constantly being thrown at us. Like, you should draft, you should outline, no one should read your work. Everyone has a different way of doing it. And what you're saying is find your own way. This worked
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go do you. Yeah.
Yeah, and they helped me stay accountable. And I didn't ask anybody. I didn't ask anybody to rewrite anything. I would say that it was more the process of simply sharing it with the friends who they would just say things like, well, that's crazy, or that's brutal, or wow, you're nuts. Just that kind of feedback. And I was like, okay, I know I'm on the right track if it's described as brutal or crazy, because that's what they are.
Did you pick 108 to begin the project or did you just stop at 108?
I decided to just choose 108. Some that didn't really make it into the book because they just weren't, I didn't feel that they were very compelling. So it was probably 130 dreams. And then I cut it back.
Mhm. So you were working toward that deadline, that goal, right, of 108. And now that doesn't mean you couldn't have changed it if you wanted 110 or 107, but it was very structured for you. And with the clients that I work with as a writing coach, a lot of times they're like, I want to write a novel. Well, that's like saying I want to walk across the country, right? Like that's a big scope. So then have that big dream, and then let's get it down to bite-sized pieces that are actually doable that you're going to show up at the page for, right? because we get overwhelmed with the idea of writing a novel. And so I can't, right? And so, we quit. And so if we have something like, I may not be able to sit down and write a novel today, very few people can, but I can sit down and write 500 words.
Yeah.
Or I can write one dream as an example, right? For you. And so I think that's very important for people to know, that it really is about making it doable for you. You can walk down the block as an example. And I actually call it kicking the ball a little further down the field every day. Just kick it a little further. It doesn't have to kick the whole way, just a little further. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That the book The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, he talks about, you just go and you sit down and you do it. You have to do it. And so I think that's one of the keys is, you have to be nice to yourself. Don't beat yourself up, but you do have to go sit down at the desk and actually put the pen to the paper, or actually start typing. And maybe it's going to be junk at first. It's always going to be junk at first, but you have to just go do it. You have to make the time, you have to structure the time to do it. And I think that that's one of the very best things. And anybody who's wanting to be creative or is already creative and doesn't know what to do with it, just force yourself to make the time to get into the space to do the thing, page at a time.
Just one page at a time, one sentence at a time. There's some days that I walk away from my writing time and I've had one really good sentence that I stays with me. And those are the best days where I'm like, yeah, I created something. And you created a book out of your dream state. And if that's not mystical and magic, I don't know what is. We create worlds in our minds all the time. Storytelling is as old as we are.
Thought a lot about the point of view aspect of a dream. When you're in the dream, things are, might be a little bit myopic, not necessarily myopic, what's the word? Just framed in a very, very tight way. And it's important that the person taking in the story can feel like, oh, I'm in this tiny little space.
And it is. And that's what I love about the format, those shorter flash fiction stories, is that it is like you're in a small space with the writer and the reader. So it does feel like that. I love that imagery. And you also have, and your other books. And I love that you just say, this is where my muse is calling me. I'm going to follow it. And is there any type of resistance to that for you? Do you ever stop yourself, or do you just trust the creative process?
I say I generally trust the creative process, although there's sometimes where I thought, oh, I might do some kind of thing, and then I realized that I just didn't have it wouldn't be a pleasure to work on it. So I stopped. Like, for example, when people said, I want to see more drawings in your next book, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to have fun with that. So I'm not going to do that. But yeah, no, I was doing the cookbooks for a while because it was really fun. And I was writing recipes for people anyway. People were always asking me for my recipes. And it was just very, very fun. And I was in a cookbook club, and I still am in a cookbook club, but just being with people who are very, very excited about cookbooks kind of said, okay, I'll do cookbooks. And I was also cooking for my son, who was very hungry. So I had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of cooking. And then when, he grew up and moved away, it was cooking for one. And I was like, I don't really think I want to make a bunch of test recipes anymore. So that moved me away from the cooking, although I still enjoy cooking, and I still write recipes all the time. I was like, I'm not going to sit around and make another cookbook.
Yeah. A couple thoughts on that. One, I did not know there was a cookbook club. I had no idea. See, I learned something that's so valuable to me. And I love your cookbooks because they're from your travels. And I'm a digital nomad and I love to travel. I've got wanderlust. It's in my bones. And I love that you can, like right now, I just opened up to Persian ice cream, and I love ice cream. So that's so valuable. And then you also have foraging in Seattle. And I'm new to the Pacific Northwest. And so when I read this, I was like, I had no idea. Like I learned so much from it, from an area that I do not know. Foraging in Seattle, cooking with delicious urban abundance. And that's a beautiful title, by the way. So what made you write that one?
For the foraging one, I suppose it's just another one of my interests. I've always been very, very interested in plants and edible plants and abundance. I've done permaculture design training, and I've done permaculture design, and I did permaculture at the house I most recently lived at, another property. I've been involved with the Beacon Food Forest permaculture project in Seattle. Uh, and so I believe in abundance, and I was making all of these dishes with things that I was foraging in Seattle. And I thought, oh, well, there's like, why not write this book about all the great things that you can cook with the things you can forage in Seattle. And I think it's again, it's sort of it's kind of comedy like like the other cookbooks, but it's also serious in that here's a lot of pretty fancy stuff that you can make, with weeds around you. And if you have a different perspective on the nature that's available to you, you can be super creative with it. I think there's a tendency, especially people in cities, to feel like, nature is somewhere else, but this is sort of an invitation to see, oh, nature is right here next to me, and I could potentially eat it.
As I've been prepping for our conversation today, and after I read 108 Dreams, I've been working on my dream state. And I'm writing a full length manuscript right now, and I've hit an obstacle with my plot. And I've been trying to figure out that plot hole. So every night before I go to bed, I was like, subconscious imagination, I'm asking you to give me the answer to that plot hole. So far has not happened, but when it does, I'll let you know. Okay. So, what advice would you give someone who is like ready to say, I'm curious about this? Let me tap into my subconscious.
Hmm. Well, I'd say first relax, because things aren't like you're working on it right now. Things aren't going to come right away. You can't just say, I have an intention one night and then everything happens tomorrow morning. And then it's going to take time, and it might come in some other way. So like we're talking about nature, I spend a lot of time walking. And when I'm at work, I take a long lunch break and walk. And my boss doesn't mind, because I'm always coming up with really great ideas when I'm out walking. So it's like, um, give yourself some space for the creativity to flow. Have the intention, do the thing, but also find different places where those creative opportunities will come to you in other ways. For some people, it's sports. Actually, I've heard that other people will do some lifting weights or playing in a game or something like that, and something will just click. So be open to all those kinds of different ways you could take in the data from the universe.
And then with your dream state, you said that you would wake up and you would speak into your phone that the dream that you just had. And so was that valuable for you? Did it feel natural to do that? Like, kind of share that process with us.
So I would say what I did is I just had a note app, and I would just make sure that it was on my home screen, and that I was able to just, even with my eyes closed, kind of get to it. And then just hit the microphone button, and just a few words, really just a few words to capture the idea, and not and to not give it any to give it as few adjectives as possible. Just describe the things that are there in the scene, and then that's enough, and then go back to sleep. So you don't have to turn on the light, get out a pen, anything like that. It's just record, put the phone back down. That's it.
And you said that you didn't use dream interpretation with these. And I thought that was interesting because I would have been like, well, that means that and this, right? And so you said that you did not do any dream interpretation. Was that intentional?
Yes, 100% intentional. No interpretation. I mean, I would be interpreting it a little bit in my own mind after I would write it down, but then I was like, no, there's not going to be any kind of indication in what I've written as to what I make of that.
We get lost in the overanalysis with our creative works. And I try to encourage people to separate the creative process from the editorial or the overanalysis, because it stilts you. You stop and you will hit obstacles with that. And so you just have to free form it. Just let it flow for you.
Right.
Is that what you did?
Yeah, absolutely. Just let it flow. Everything I could think of, get it into the recording. And then when I'm awake and I'm organized, that's when I type it into the Google Doc and give it a title and organize it in the file.
Love that you shared that your whole life is creative, because everything that you do, planting a garden is creative, and you're planting those seeds, right? The dream books, you're planting the seed of remembering your dreams. Everything correlates through creativity. And you live a creative life, and that's so beautiful. What kind of advice would you offer someone who's wanting to bring more creativity into their world?
Probably the advice about structure, to give yourself the time and the space to do it. Give yourself, if you want to paint, get the painting supplies and make a space in your home where you are going to paint, and then go to it and make a date with yourself to go to that space and do it. Even if you don't want to do it, I think it's a little bit like something like meditation, that we all think, oh, it's really great, but then you just are like, oh, I don't want to make time to do it. It is that putting yourself get the stuff that you need, make the space that you need, and go to that space.
I had a conversation with Pam Shepard about the practice of sadhana, which is the discipline to show up consistently in everything that we do. But it's sadhana is that one thing that we do for ourselves that enhances our well-being in our life. And it sounds to me like you have quite a few sadhanas in your life where you show up because you love to do it. It feels good to do it, but you understand the importance of the discipline of it, the consistency.
In my mind, where there's a lot of creativity, a lot of ideas swirling around, but I think I would go completely crazy if I didn't have these structures to put them into. Yeah, so there's a balance. There's a real balance there.
Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing this to our audience, the dream state and also the structure around creativity, because I think so often, our creative understanding feels so ethereal, like we can't grab our hands, but we can put structure around it and build. The information that you need for Cheryl will be in the description notes, including the book for Ross Gay. We'll include that as well. And go ahead and send me the link to your permaculture class. I think I have a lot of listeners that would be very interested in that.
Sure.
And we'll go ahead and put all of that for both on YouTube and on for the podcast. And make sure to follow Cheryl on her Instagram page, 108.dreams, and buy the books, people. Buy the books. You'll enjoy them. I did. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.